It's still there, Wolfie. Wolfie. Still there, buddy. Check it out. Check it out, Wolfie. Give it a read. Maybe stop being a liberal activist for 5 minutes in your interview with Barr and do actual journalism. Bill Barr gave an interview to CNN. You know, I used to be relatively friendly with Wolf Blitzer when I did commentary at CNN. He's now lost it too. I mean, I'm sorry, but Trump just broke these people. Just broke them. They've become nothing but political hacks at this point. So Barr gave an interview with Wolf Blitzer over at CNN. And he brings up this point about mail-in ballots, what I just spoke to you about with Karl Rove and his warning, how this is going to be their vehicle to sow chaos. Mail-in ballots, signature verifications, postmarks. They'll sue over everything, every ballot that comes in the mail because they want to prolong it if Trump wins. Barr warns about another component of this. And Blitzer, who you think could be a media person and would be interested in what Bill Barr is talking about, saying, hey, Mr. Barr, you're the Attorney General. You're worried about counterfeit ballots from overseas. You know, that sounds really interesting. I'd like to hear more. Blitzer's not concerned about that at all because Blitzer wants mail-in ballots because he wants the chaos and he wants the lawsuits and the signature problems because he doesn't want a victor declared until it's Biden. Here's Barr on with Wolf Blitzer, who has no questions whatsoever about why Barr would say this other than to try to debunk what Barr is saying. Check this out.
And you've said you were worried that a foreign country could send thousands of fake ballots to people and it might be impossible to detect. What are you basing that on?
I'm basing that, as I've said repeatedly, I'm basing that on logic.
Pardon?
Logic.
But have you seen any evidence that a foreign country is trying to interfere in that way?
No, I'm saying people are concerned about foreign influence, and if we use a ballot system with the system that that states are just now trying to adopt, it does leave open the possibility of counterfeiting ballots, either by someone here or someone over.
Well, again, Wolf has no concerns about this at all. Wolf, who was supposedly concerned about Russian collusion and interference in the election, is not concerned at all that foreigners could counterfeit U.S. ballots and interfere in an election. Now, Joe, Wolf's a journalist, right? Hashtag journalist, yes. Air quotes journalist. So he must have missed this story in the New York Post the other day by John Levine, which went viral, where an actual ballot fraudster explained this in the New York Post piece, how they're already counterfeiting ballots. Here's the piece. It'll be up in the show notes again today for you liberals who may have missed it. Confessions of a voter fraud. I was a master at fixing mail-in ballots. John Levine, New York Post, where he described this interesting little tidbit. Wolf may have missed this. Well, counterfeit ballots don't happen, Mr. Barr. We're only concerned about Russian collusion. Says, quote, this is the fraudster talking about how they fake ballots. He says, quote, the ballot has no specific security features like a stamp or a watermark. So the insider said he would just make his own ballots. Quote, I just put the ballot through the copy machine. It comes out the same way. The insider fraudster said. But the return envelopes, quote, are more secure than the ballot. You could never recreate the envelope, he said. So they had the envelopes collected from real voters. Wolf, I'm sure you're a journalist, right? You missed that? You missed that? No, you were there. You were not. See, you have to understand, Wolf's not there as a journalist. Wolf is there as a liberal activist trying to discredit Barr. If Wolf was a journalist, he would say to Barr, have you seen the story in the New York Post? Are you worried about this counterfeiting ballots here, that this could go overseas too? That's a legitimate question. But Wolf's not a legitimate journalist, so he has no idea. Wolf may have also missed this story in the New York Times. The New York Times, yes, this was back in 2012 when the New York Times still cared about mail-in fraud, probably because military members vote by mail a lot, and these military members are largely, some of them vote Republican, a lot of them. So they cared about mail-in fraud back in 2012. Here's an article by Adam Liptak, New York Times 2012. Error and fraud at issue as absentee voting rises. Again, this is when Wolf missed this article too, Joe, of course, because he's not a real journalist. We do that here. And the New York Times said this in 2012 about mail-in fraud that Wolf Blitzer seems to think is a conspiracy theory. So, quote, New York Times, yet votes cast by mail are less likely to be counted, more likely to be compromised, and more likely to be contested than those cast in a voting booth, statistics show. Wait, this is the New York Times? Yes, in 2012 when they cared. Election officials reject almost 2% of ballots cast by mail, double the rate for in-person voting. This quote is classic. They interviewed a Mr. Sancho who said, quote, "The more you force people to vote by mail, the more invalid ballots you will generate." This was in the New York Times in 2012. Look it up. It's still there. It's still there, Wolfie. Wolfie. Still there, buddy. Check it out. Check it out, Wolfie. Give it a read. Maybe stop being a liberal activist for 5 minutes in your interview with Barr and do actual journalism.
You just heard Dan Bongino.